Okay, so I can say it is a good time to travel. There are a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunities. So as long as you're actually willing to travel, where you're not trying to stay in that radius of your hometown just to get paid more, but you're really willing to
Hmm.
travel, there's lots of jobs right now.
Thanks for joining us today, Laura.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This is great.
I've been really excited to talk to you about travel therapy. I feel like you and I we're still young women, but I feel like we are veterans now. Like we have been through so many changes in the therapy industry. And I think, especially for you in
Yeah.
travel therapy, we've seen so many changes over the past couple of years. So I'm excited today to talk a little bit about some of the challenges and opportunities headed into 2023. But before we get there, I want to
hmm
hear just a little bit about you and starting Nomadicare.
Sounds great. Well, this is my favorite topic, of course. Travel therapy is like my big love in our industry that I think a lot of people don't know how great it is, and it's one of my
Hmm.
favorite things. And I'm like, oh, I feel so lucky that I ended up being a travel OT for part of my career. But Nomadicare is something I started all the way back in 2014 now. And this was something I started because I was a travel OT before Nomadicare and even after Nomadicare for quite a while. But I was traveling and I went to this assignment and I met another travel OT that was starting the same day on the assignment. And we get to chatting at lunch on the first day. And we start talking about what are you getting paid? What are you getting paid? And I find out I'm getting paid $400 every single week less than this other travel OT.
And you're doing the same
Doesn't
job?
feel good. Same exact job. And get
Oh my
this, not
goodness.
even just the same job. We're working through the same staffing agency. We just had
What?
different recruiters. And I had already traveled for quite a little, like a lot of assignments at that point. And it was the first time I realized, oh, recruiters are actually salespeople and you're supposed to
Hmm.
negotiate with them and they are allowed to pay you different rates depending on what you're able to tell them you want.
Are
And
they
at that
making more
time,
if you are paid less?
oh,
Is that
yeah,
what's happening? Okay.
especially back then, it's
Yeah,
commission
yeah.
based. So they get paid a percentage off the gross profits they make the company. So they feel like
Oh.
your best bud and everything. And, and a lot of them are just genuinely nice, but the incentives are not aligned.
Yeah.
Their incentives are to pay you
No,
less so they
no.
can make more, not pay you
Yeah.
more so they can make less. Well, I was really surprised and not
Yeah.
thrilled, not thrilled by it. But also back then, there was nothing in the realm of transparency in the industry of how does a travel OT find out what they're supposed to get paid? Because it
Hmm.
is different in one part of California to the other versus Idaho versus Vermont versus Texas. It is different. So it's not like you
Hmm.
can just say, well, I'm worth this much. You have to kind of be able to compare pay packages and understand different things like that. But there was no job boards where they publicly listed
Yeah.
pay back then. We had nothing. So it was kind of like trusting a salesperson,
And if you didn't know how
figuring
many
it
other
out as you
therapists are
go.
out there, you wouldn't know, like, if I negotiate, will I not get jobs or yeah.
Totally. And
Oh,
it's a little bit
man.
scary and
Yeah.
intimidating negotiating. As OTs, we're very empathetic, relationship based. It can be
Yeah.
scary. The whole thing is a little
Oh,
bit against us to
yeah.
feel
And
that
these are all
empowerment. So
like
yeah,
new OTs too, younger
a
people who are doing
lot,
this.
a lot of
Whoa.
OTs travel in their early 20s. Guess who is probably most scared about those kind of conversations when you're
Yeah.
new in your career and you
Yeah.
don't know your value quite yet. Yeah. So all of that, I realized, the sales process. So Nomadicare's mission from the beginning, and if you go to the website now, you'll see we have tons of tools to meet this mission. But even from the beginning, it was about transparency and empowerment and helping travelers not have that happen to them. One of the first websites, if not the first one in travel OT, to start showing pay packages and teach people how to
Hmm.
negotiate and how it works, mixed with our main thing we do, which is the vetted recruiter matchmaking. So people can come and like get matched to a recruiter that we vet and we hold accountable very strictly. So they know, okay, this recruiter is paying fair and they do these things, and Nomadicare is looking out for us travelers, that we have honest recruiters And then we've got tons of tools for you to not just have to take their word for it, but you can look for yourself now to see what you're worth in different places and how to have those conversations and, things like that. Yeah,
How
so
many
that's how it all
recruiters are
began. Yeah.
affiliated with you guys? Like, are you getting like 5% of them or like 50%? Like, what's
We have a
I don't know
really
if you know that.
large, are you saying how many recruiters do we have working
Yeah,
with us
yeah,
in
like,
general?
yeah.
Yeah, so if you come through Nomadicare, how it works now is, let's say you wanted to travel and you said, I really want to go to one of these states next. You would tell us in a form about that. And we are partnered with a lot of, I would say we probably have at least 90% of the jobs in the
Yeah.
whole United States through all of our companies we work with. Now, a company first, like we have to vet the company as a whole first for big picture integrity. Then
Mm-hmm.
we actually interview the individual recruiters because of the issue at the beginning. Depending on what recruiter you have, your whole experiences is different, even inside of one company. So we have could have a couple of recruiters from this company, but other recruiters at that same company didn't pass the interview, and a couple from this one and a couple from this one. And what you'll find
Mm.
is this company might be really small, but if you want schools in California, you better be with that company. This company
Yeah.
might be huge, but actually they don't have a good footing in schools because they sold part of their company to this company. And we have the privilege now that we're bigger and have good tech now to pull in all their jobs and see them. So when you put in the form, oh, I want to go here, we actually can use tech to assist us too to say, oh, these companies is who you better work with if you want to go here. And we'll give you the vetted recruiter inside of that company that we hold accountable. So we have a ton, I would say most, of course, not all, because I think that's impossible. Small
Yeah,
companies might
yeah.
have a direct contract somewhere, but we have most of the jobs of the travel OT industry as a whole with us now, which is cool and really
Wow,
exciting. Yeah.
that's incredible. Yeah, I
Yeah.
when I first met you, I don't know when, maybe like around 2015, I was so relieved because I was like, travel. I always wanted to use the word sleazy when I was thinking about like some of the interactions people had. And I was so
Yeah.
real. And people would come to me and ask for travel advice, and I've never traveled. And I would be like, oh, now
Yeah.
there's someone I can send people to
Yes.
get clear information. So I guess my question
hmm
is, so here we are, we're looking into 2023. Is the industry, how has the industry changed? Have you changed the industry? And these other big picture things going on, like nurses strikes are happening right now as
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
recording. Like, what's this year looking like? Yeah, what are you seeing as, I guess let's start with the
Yeah.
challenges. What are the challenges in travel therapy this year?
Oh, for challenges this year, I would say for travel OT, specifically, I mean, I guess honestly, this is kind of travel therapy in general too, but we're coming out of COVID, where it was very interesting. COVID, where the very beginning of it, the market crashed. There was almost
Hmm.
no travel therapy jobs at all. The entire country, there might have been like 20 travel OT openings, which in perspective, there's over 300 today. And over 300 in the country is a pretty strong market. So it's a good market right now for travel OTs. 20 is don't travel. It's like it's just horrible. And
Yeah,
that means if you
that's
get a
terrible.
contract, they'll probably cancel you, et cetera, et cetera. So we
Hmm.
started COVID really rough. Then when the elective surgeries came back, it spiked like crazy. So there might have been 500 plus jobs, and they were all paying higher then. What happened is a lot of OTs came into the market and they were like, this is really exciting. Look how much we can get paid. And they started traveling. And what's happening now, which is always a challenge, it's happening in travel nursing too. The rates are going back to probably what's more of a fair market value that's more sustainable for the hospitals and the facilities as well. Because a lot of them were actually going into debt to just cover all of the expenses there. It wasn't sustainable. So it's
Yeah.
going back down to like probably a more fair market value, but that doesn't feel good as the travel
Yeah.
OT that was making more, and you want that to be the fair market value, but it actually wasn't sustainable for the long term. So we're seeing the rates drop some, but then the people who got into it during COVID, the peak of COVID, they're still wanting those really high rates. So we're finding more of that kind of just confusion of, well, am I
Hmm.
getting taken advantage of now? But really the market is just balancing out. And I think that can
Yeah.
just be challenging to accept less money after you made more if you started
Yeah.
with more
Yeah.
money.
Yep.
So I can even say we pulled the data. today for this interview, and there's some really high paying jobs that you'll see when you go on Facebook groups, especially because remember, a recruiter's job is still a sales job. They're only going to post their most highest paying job to get attention. So if you go in there, or even job boards, the top of them are the highest paying, you'll see really high paying jobs over, getting close to 3,000 or 2,500. And you might think, oh, cool, that's what travelers get paid. But the average job is $1,900 a week. And so I think it's just good to know where the average is. So then if you're getting an offer that's like 21 or 2,200, to be like, that is actually above average, versus being like, oh, it's not as high as the highest one on every job board. So I think there's just a challenge of the market calming back down to a more normal level. And then as a therapist, you don't want it to. You want those high pay rates to last forever and ever. Yeah. I think that's one of the challenges I see with new OTs, is just being more confused on not understanding when you're getting paid what you're worth, when the rates are changing and you don't know if someone's lying to you or not, or if it really is changing. But one of the things you can use to on Nomadicare is, because it is dependent on location, there's this tool on the side that's like an am I getting paid fair tool. It's like a pay comparison. You just put in the zip code and the rate that you're getting offered, and it will tell you if it's above or below average for that area specifically, because you should get paid more in San Francisco than in Texas. So you want to compare it to that zip code, not the whole of the United States. One thing that is more challenging right now too is housing. The rents have gone up a lot. Finding short-term housing has become something that is more challenging than it used to be. Now, with that, there's more resources out there. There's a place called Furnish Finders. And then just in general, there's more technologies to help find housing. But I am finding that to be even more challenging than, a few years ago. Yeah.
So that's the challenge. When you look ahead at 2023 in these changes, what are the unique opportunities are unique to this time? Like, what do you see looking ahead this year?
Okay, so I can say it is a good time to travel. There are a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunities. So as long as you're actually willing to travel, where you're not trying to stay in that radius of your hometown just to get paid more, but you're really willing to travel, there's lots of jobs right now. And I was looking, let's see what else we have. Over 50% of the jobs were in skilled nursing homes. Now that's normal. Like, travel is always a lot of, SNFs. However, that's actually pretty decent. Like, there was a time where it was over 70-75% SNFs. So that's actually like a good balance. So you're going to see still jobs in outpatient clinics and schools if you're not wanting to get into a SNF. However, there's still 50% in SNFs. So if you are a skilled nurse, skilled nursing worker, you can get jobs in lots of places. 25% of the travel OT jobs now are all in California. So knowing that, you might think about getting a California license, because they do take quite a few months to come in, and such a valuable license to have in your back pocket is California. Because if all else fails, you can pretty much always go to California and find a job there. So tons of jobs in California. And then West Coast in general, even, Washington has a lot of jobs right now too. And so if you're looking for West Coast, it's a good time to head on west and grab a job.
How are you feeling about the licensure compact coming up, where now an OT can be licensed in multiple states? I always thought that is such a barrier. Exciting. Like, if I want to go somewhere, I have to apply. Applying to get your license is the worst. I'm like, that's a huge barrier. Just being a traveler, like, I don't want to do that just because I don't want to get my license other places.
100%. The compact coming to OT is so exciting. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait for the future when every state is in a compact. Like, that's just how it is. You have a license. You can work in the United States, period. I cannot wait for that day. I think it will happen.
You're going to be so mobile
someday.
As a travel therapist.
Oh my God. Oh, it'd be awesome. That would be so nice. And if it could be the licenses and health insurance, if those are both someday both cover all 50 states, then we really do have a lot more freedom of less stress. You just pick up and go. So, but no, that's a very, very exciting thing. And of course, massively beneficial as a traveler.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So thinking about getting your there's so many, when I think about traveling, there's so many things to think about if you're thinking
Mm,
about becoming a traveler. Like, what's your advice to someone who's early in the process thinking about it? Like,
mm-hmm.
yeah,
Um,
where do they
early
start?
days.
Like,
Well, I would say if you're thinking about it and you're kind of ready to travel, but you're just a little nervous,
yeah.
I think my best advice is honestly just go do it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I really mean that. Like, when I started traveling, I didn't know everything about the industry, and you almost never do. It's pretty much a gray area industry. The data changes a lot. So, what you knew 6 months ago can be slightly different. And it's part of travel is
Yeah.
learning as you go. So just I
Mm-hmm.
just think I would encourage, especially my like type A friends that feel like everything needs to kind of be perfectly in order. This is the kind of career that will help you like just kind of throw that out the window, say yes to what sounds good, and if it ends up not being the best assignment, you're just like, "Hey, it was just 13 weeks and I learned a ton. It's okay, now I know more. I'll go on to the next one." But I
Yeah.
would just say don't psych yourself out of it. Sometimes it sounds more intimidating than it really is. It really is just an interview. You say yes, you move somewhere, you have a great time, or it's
Yep.
not the best time and you go to the next one. So I would say do it. It is a very rare opportunity we have as occupational therapists to even be afforded a job that allows you to see so much of the United States if you
Mm-hmm.
want to take time off in between assignments, even a month or 2 months, to go backpack overseas if you want, or don't. Just make more money and pay off your student loans faster. But whatever it is, like this is a dream, I think, of so many people to be like,
Yeah.
you could get paid to travel around. And usually people's lives, they do it for a couple of years and then a lot of people end up settling down after that. But I think if you're considering it and you're just a little nervous, take the
Just
leap. And
do
then you
it.
can
Yes.
always go
Yeah.
back home and you can always get a permanent job if you didn't like it. But I
Yeah.
don't think you'll regret it. It's a very like cool experience to
Yeah.
have. So I would say like not overthinking it is a good one. Number two, one of the biggest things that will impact you, of course, is the opportunities, like the jobs that you're offered or the opportunities you see. And a lot of times, new therapists or new travelers don't realize different companies have vastly different jobs from each other. And they have a lot of the jobs that are the same, but they don't have all the jobs that are the same. So making sure
Mm-hmm.
you're with a couple different companies, because one, you can compare pay, makes it way harder for a company to way over underpay you. But then two, you actually can hear about way more jobs. So make sure you're with two companies at a minimum, but three is really nice. And then recruiters you bond with, because it is a relationship
Yeah.
business. So we still treat recruiters with respect and, as almost like our friends when we build that trust, because the relationship goes a long way. Recruiters can get some major pull to get you into really cool jobs too. So three recruiters from three different companies that have jobs where you want to go. Don't overthink it too much. Don't
Yep.
beat yourself up too much when you make mistakes. And then probably just learning how to find accurate information. Facebook
Mm-hmm.
groups, notoriously bad information.
Yeah.
Certain blogs will have really good information. Learning how to use data so you understand when you're getting, paid too little or it's a great offer. So that way, when you hear them, you can be like, oh, cool, this is great. Yes, let's do it. So you're not stuck in that cycle in your head of like, am I getting underpaid? Am I supposed to negotiate? Because you can
Yeah.
feel almost like more anxiety than you need to when you could just look and be like, okay, I can see the data. This is fine. Let's go have some fun. So just
Yeah.
learning how to, I think, like access the data helps you have a bit more peace of mind when
Mm-hmm.
you're making
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a false narrative that we tell ourselves where we're like, oh, when I have more experience, I'll be more confident to travel. Whereas, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you wait, you probably won't do it. Like, that is just
Yeah.
how, like, I don't know anyone
Totally.
my
Totally.
age who's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to go travel now. Like, and maybe there
Mm-mm.
are, but yeah, the more you
There are,
wait,
but
the
way less.
less likely,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
less likely you are to travel.
Totally.
So just do
And
it.
I
Yeah.
traveled as a new grad. That's not necessarily for everybody, but I don't think you need like a crazy amount of experience to travel as an
Mm-hmm.
occupational therapist. You need to be a bit resourceful where if you go to an assignment and you feel like, oh, wow, I could use a little bit of mentorship in this setting, you know how to ask for mentorship yourself. Staffing
Yeah.
agencies don't typically give that to you, or you bring your resources from school with you and you just might study a bit at night if you're
Yeah.
a newer therapist. I studied at night in my first couple of jobs, and that's fine. I just kept growing, and I'd have my
Mhm.
flash, because you're still learning, but I wouldn't put it in your head that, oh, I need so much experience to be a traveler, because you really don't. I did it and I learned as
Yeah.
I went, and I became a strong traveler, or a stronger therapist, I think, because I would see this style of therapy and this leadership and this style and this
Yeah.
leadership when I moved here and then this one. And I think I actually kept my favorite parts from a lot of different clinics and became a very strong OT because I was a traveler.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you can do it. You can do it with less experience than I think you need, as long as you are resourceful, a
Yeah,
bit.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you can go to your website and you don't have to be like
Hmm.
you were when you started with no
Totally.
information. And people just go
Such a
there
huge leap
and
forward.
they sign
Yeah.
up and do they get an
Hmm.
account created? What's
Yeah, you
what's
can
like
make
the
an
basic
account,
first
and
couple of steps?
yeah, a lot of it is just out there. So you go to nomadicare.com, and then there's a few different avenues. You can get matched. You can fill out a form, even without having an account. You can just fill out a form to say all the things you want. When you want to travel, we'll give you the right recruiters for you, knowing who has jobs there and that the recruiters are vetted. So do that when you're ready to travel in about 3 months or less. If you're not in that range, there's lots of other things you can do. There's pay package breakdowns to learn how pay works, because in travel we get a lot of tax-free money, but it can be confusing at first. So you can learn about that. You can go to the pay comparison tool and figure out how much you might get paid in different areas and get excited about that.
Mhm.
And then you can go to the licensure guide and figure out which states have quicker licenses or longer licenses. You could go to the job board to see where the jobs are, because there are states that have zero travel jobs. So you can't just go anywhere you can dream of, but you can look at where all the jobs are and figure out where good places are that you would be excited to go based on where jobs are versus just based on, a blank map. So,
Mhm.
and then of course there's the blogs, and you can read and learn more about the industry too. So
Yeah.
lots of places, just
Which
depending
is
on where you're
awesome.
at, in your journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, Laura, this was awesome. Thank you for talking about 2023 and just all the work you've done to bring clarity to this industry. You've had an amazing mission and it's been fun to watch you carry it out. So thank you for
Thank you.
that and
Lots
just
more
for
to
the time
come
today.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sarah.